Welcome back, guys. Welcome back to Bad Thought Studios. Today is a little turn of events. We got the Disney gurus themselves, Citrus George and OG55. We're going to be talking Disney today, a little bit of Disney. And Bob Iger came out with some questionable words about some of the movies and stuff they've been putting out. So we got the gurus to decipher this one for us. We got OG55, Citrus George. How you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Fantastic. Thank you for having us on. We always love talking shop with you guys.
Of course, man. If you could actually tell the people what you guys do for those who don't know on the show.
Yeah, we talk a lot, like what we're talking about today with Bob Iger and all that stuff. We do a lot of that conversation, that kind of thing over at OG55. It's OrangeGrove55 on YouTube. We also talk about theme parks. We get into like things like Star Wars, the MCU, all that good stuff. So check us out on YouTube, OrangeGrove55. You can follow me on Twitter at OrangeGrove55, and you can follow me on Instagram, OrangeGrove55.
And I will have all his stuff in the description below. And his co-host, Citrus George, Mr. Italiano. If you could let the people know what you do as well and where they can find you.
Absolutely. You could also find me on OrangeGrove55, where I discuss all the main topics with this guy over here, my brother. We talk about current events, a lot of breaking news stuff that's going on with the Walt Disney Company. And then, of course, my segment as part of the channel is Citrus Corner, where we dive into all the Disney stuff that's on the east side of the Mississippi River, all of Walt Disney World and the Disney Cruise Line. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, you could do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. And you could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano.
Yeah, I love it. It never gets old. Your slogan, I swear, I love it every time. And you guys might recognize the Candid Camper. How you doing, Candid?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing, Tones?
I'm doing pretty good. If you could tell the people where they can find you as well.
Yeah, you can find me the Candid Camper on YouTube, the Candid Camper on X, and then Instagram. Same thing, Candid Camper with an extra R at the end. Then also on our other podcast, the Bad Thoughts podcast.
All right. Yeah, you guys can. I will have everything in the description below. So if you guys feel the need to click on one of those, go ahead and do so. But let's start this off. Bob Iger had some crazy quotes come out this last couple days. Bob Iger and Disney execs say their main goal now is quality over quantity. Source was Deadline. So I'll start with you, OG. How we feeling about this, man?
Okay, so okay. Here's the thing. This is one of those lines where it's like kind of like no duh, right? Like obviously you want to have good product, you know. So it's kind of like a no brainer. I will say this though, a lot of the stuff, like they were really kind of a content machine for many, many years because they were trying to fill that streaming service, Disney Plus. Yeah. And I do think that there was a quantity problem where they started to produce too much stuff, like the MCU, for example, started to produce too much stuff, and then the quality started to slip. So I'm glad that he's recognizing that and saying, okay, we got to pump the brakes a little bit on this stuff and kind of slow roll this stuff out. Great idea. My only issue though, especially when it comes to the MCU, is, and this is actually shout out to Den of Nerds, Josh. He said this. I think he made a great point. I agree with him. They need to stop. Marvel needs to stop delaying projects and start canceling projects. There's a lot of stuff in that pipeline. It's like destined to fail. Okay, you can see the writing on the wall a million miles away. They need to start canceling and really kind of reset this whole thing. So I think if Bob Iger is serious about this quality over quantity thing, he needs to start making some big and bold moves to show everybody that he means it. You know, if you kind of just keep going the way it's going, it's like at that point it's just words, and people start to like kind of block it out. So we'll see. I mean, look, it sounds nice, but let's see him put pen to paper.
Yeah, I agree. And Cannon, I'm kind of curious of what you got to say, because you actually told me this a while ago that they should worry about quality over quantity. So what's your opinion on this?
So I'm on the opposite end of what OG was saying, is that I think they knew what they're doing. I think they're pushing all this stuff because they were trying to fill as much as they can with, like you said, with Disney Plus. So they just wanted to just push everything they can. They wanted to capitalize on a lot of that in-home revenue. And I think that's where the quality really slipped. As far as when you do get quality, you are getting it from certain parts of the Disney Corporation, which was mostly like Pixar. When Pixar was putting stuff out, they're still putting quality out, which was kind of weird and crazy. Is that during the special time in our lives, 2020 and on, they made a few Pixar movies that went directly to streaming instead of in a movie theater or paid, the pay to play kind of thing. And I think some of those movies were a lot better than quality wise than some of the movies that Disney actually had you pay for. And even in recent events, forgetting Marvel, look what they did with Haunted Mansion. They remade Haunted Mansion because the Eddie Murphy one was not to the standard that people wanted, and they made it worse. That was probably one of the worst movies I've seen in years.
This is the
And
new one.
the new one. I give it
Wow.
like a 2 out of 10.
Really? Wow, I never saw it, so it's
horrible.
that bad.
It is that bad. It's sad when the best Haunted Mansion is the Muppets.
There you go.
And if you have not seen the Muppets Haunted Mansion, it's fucking hilarious. It's phenomenal. It's a really good movie. But yeah, no, I think quality over quantity definitely needs to happen. I think Bob Iger knew what he was doing the whole time. Even Chapek knew what they were doing. They're just trying to pump shit out, and it didn't work out for him.
Yeah, I'm on the side of OG. I do think the important part about him saying this was the admission that that's what they've been putting out, and it's
Well,
I
look at
guess-
the numbers.
yeah.
Obviously, you're gonna fucking start saying shit when you're
But
tanking.
as a CEO, you're not admitting that. I mean, publicly,
yeah,
quietly, I guess, yeah. But publicly, you're not coming out and saying that. I mean, you just don't do it. But it's good that he's doing it, and it's respectable, in my opinion, that he's coming out and saying that, and admitting this is what he's going to be doing forward. So I think that's a step in the right direction.
Can I ask a quick question to the gentleman below? What is what's the ratio of revenue coming in from movies versus the theme parks?
Oh, that's a good question. I think the parks actually, I don't know the exact number, but I think the parks actually bring more money in than the movies. I've heard historically that the studio, the profit margins are pretty thin overall, but I don't know the exact numbers.
So
Like, as of right now,
what's
carrying the company right now is the revenue coming from the parks.
From the parks. So there's your quality over quantity once again. Not trying to veer off from the studio side of this, but if you need to put money somewhere and you're this corporation called Disney, put it into the parks. If that's where all your revenues, because you don't lose when you put money in the parks. You lose when you take on a movie.
Exactly, but and that's the issue. And actually, this kind of is going to tie into my response to this. Is I'm so sick and tired of them actually coming out and vocalizing this, of saying, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Just fucking do it. I don't need you to stand up on a podium with a microphone to be saying all this shit when we already knew what you should have been fucking doing 5 years ago. It's like, I just do it. And to your point, Candid, when it's like, if you're gonna see something that's working to benefit the company that you're ahead of, which is right now the parks, you need investment in the parks. And even Iger had stated that when he said, in order, to run a theme park entertainment business, in order to succeed, you have to invest in it. Yeah. Okay, good. Nice. Good. Pat on the back. It's like,
but the investment is not a fucking downtown shopping center that I can go anywhere else in LA and fucking go and do. Unless you're giving me Disney Springs, keep your shit, bitch.
Well, and it's like, it's still even the same notion of, but they're not even doing that. It's like, it's just all talk. There is nothing coming out one way or the other. And OG and I had this discussion on OrangeGrove55 that in order to have the parks, you have to have the studio. In order to have the studio, you have to have the parks. It's a balancing back and forth. So in order for the parks to succeed, so does the studio, and vice versa. But it's like, so right now, your main goal right now, you have enough IP to get you by. And right now, the money is where it's in the parks right now. So do something about it. And then eventually down the road, you still work on getting the kinks out with the studio side, with the streaming service. But in the meantime, do something where the money is coming in.
Let me tell you one thing that I think kind of like validates my point of them knowing the quantity and quality thing. This going once again back to the parks. When they got told no by the city that they can't build the bridge, and they had to go and invest that money. Remember, they got a shit ton of money and they had to use it to create this. What the fuck they go do? Oh, we're gonna build a hotel right here. That was no plan. They're just gonna willy nilly just throw this money into a fucking hotel and take up all this extra land for no fucking reason just because they had to use that money. How is that quality? That's not
Right.
quality.
No,
They couldn't have, and they could have. They didn't even need to put it there. They could have invested all that cash into into the theme park itself.
Right.
But they didn't do that.
Well, the only reason why is because in that time they still didn't have, which now they're working on now, is the zoning
Yeah.
in order to. But to your point, Candid, what I feel like Disney did the first time is they kind of came in with this kind of like chip on their shoulder, like to say, oh, we can kind of get whatever we want despite of and all that, and the city just wasn't going to have it. So now Disney is taking a different kind of route on, you know, working with the city and working with the community and working with the people and the businesses and the residential side of it. So it's like now everyone's kind of in a cohesive understanding of what's going on, and that's why Disney has even been doing those little pop-up little events like around the city and what have you in different locations to kind of give people a feel of what Disneyland Forward is all about. So, I mean, we're going to be coming up in early 2024 for that vote. So I do think hopefully that's what Disney is kind of waiting for to make that move. And I'm hoping, I'm optimistic that that's the reason why it's all talk and no show. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see. And if they don't deliver, then there's something literally wrong. And honestly, too, Bob Iger's statement that he will step down in 2026, then Bob, maybe you should.
Yep.
Yeah, well, what I think they should do, look, I don't think they should remove him now because that would cause way too much disruption. They already replaced Chapek a year ago. To kick Bob Iger out, it's too much right now. But what I think they should do for sure, I think within the next 6 months, right? I think what they need to do is announce the successor. Give us the name, who's the next guy or gal that's going to be replacing Bob Iger. Then I think that would kind of qualm the nervousness a little bit. Like, okay, we have a person coming in, we know who it is, you know, and I think that would definitely create a situation that would kind of calm the investors down a little bit and make it easier for Iger. But you can't kick him out. I mean, that would...
No, you can't kick him out. No, absolutely not. That would be so detrimental to the company right now, especially since they're starting to get on a somewhat of a building block.
People still trust him. That's the thing. Still, he's one of the people that you can get. He can drag you through all the mud in the world, but you'd still trust him. In comparison to Chapek.
In comparison to Chapek, but I do feel like a lot of people have lost faith in him a little bit because it is showing that. Because when people did notice, because I noticed it on X when they said that he is stating, which we're still not even 100% sure if that's the case, that when his contract expires in 2026, he's done, and people are putting up these gift emojis like of applauding and everything, and it's like, which they never did that with Iger before.
Well, I mean, he hasn't done anything since he's been back. Completely honest, nothing groundbreaking.
How long has Bob Iger been in his position?
Well, the first time it was, I think, 2006 or 2005 until 2020. He left. Wow. Bob Chapek came in, and then Iger came back at the end of 2022.
Was he fired or he left it on his own?
No, he left right when the pandy started. Like he knew, okay, I got to get out. Like literally, he announced his retirement in February 2020.
And I think that's where people have that common misconception, and I think they're starting to realize that, yeah, as much as Chapek dropped the ball on a lot of things, and as a lot of people didn't like Chapek, he was put in the position of CEO under the arms of Bob Iger. And I think 100%. Now people are really starting to notice how and why that even occurred, because even now there's things that, and OG had touched upon this many times, at least to a little bit of Chapek's credit, at least when Chapek said something, it was greenlit. We were getting stuff done. Like now, it's nothing is happening with the parks with tomorrow. Nothing is kind of going. We're not getting like even full on answers with the streaming service, with linear television. We're not like even with like Hulu. Like we're not giving, like it's just being mentioned. and then it just gets lost. It's like there's no consistency of saying, "Hey, you know what? We're going to do this." It's like, "Oh, well, we're thinking about doing this," or "We're going to think." It's like that's what the baseline is now for everything that comes out of their mouth, and it's like, unfortunately, it's starting to get to that boy who cried wolf syndrome. It's like you can say it so many times, but who is really going to believe you?
And I think the Hulu situation is going to be another big, big step for him too. If he's going to mess it up and make it, to me, I think they should leave it Hulu and Disney like Plus. I think they should make it two different ones. But if they merge it and people end up hating it, it's just another tick on the people are going to hate
Well,
the Bob
well,
Iger.
I do think it is a good idea. I think as far as because it's going to be like a merger without it being a merger, so to speak.
Well, yeah,
So
because it's gonna be the combined streamer will be a separate app.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's a separate one, and then you can still have your Disney Plus and your Hulu apps. You know, they're standalones too. So they're kind of separating it.
And that would kind of help the strategy wise, because for someone who may want to watch an adult type movie or adult type television show that may not be fitting for Disney Plus, they can still get it off of Hulu, but it would still be connected to the Disney Plus streaming platform, and then vice versa. So no matter which way you go, whether you go Disney Plus or Hulu, when you click on that, Disney is getting all that revenue.
Damn. Yeah. Bob Iger is. I haven't been around the the news of Bob Iger as much as you guys have, so I take your guys' word for it. And I, all in all, we all hope he does the right thing, and makes everything like he says he's gonna do. But time will tell. And the other quote that he came out with, The Verge reported this one. It says, Bob Iger blames underperformance of the Marvels on the large volume of content, making it difficult for execs to supervise.
This is the interesting thing about that, right? Because there's been long talk about things being spread too thin for Kevin Feige. He's got too much on his plate, spread too thin. So before, when he only had the movies and a handful of movies a year, maybe one or two, Feige was all in. He could really focus on those one or two. But now he's got multiple movies all year. He's got multiple Disney Plus shows. There's been a lot of talk, like, maybe Feige spread too thin. I can kind of see a little bit where Iger's coming from with that. Like, if that's the case, then Feige has to start delegating more. And I think he was delegating out to people like Victoria Alonso, who got fired recently and stuff like that. And I think the quality suffered. I mean, I think that is kind of an issue. And that kind of also plays into when we talk about quality over quantity, right? Making less content and where you can focus on these projects more and hone in on them and perfect them and create a better product. So I think there's something to that. I kind of agree with Bob on that.
Yeah, I agree. And you said it, you hit the nail on the head. It's just, you don't have the overlook from Feige for everything because of how much they were putting out. So if they either put more people on or make less content so he can overlook these things, I think it will be way better for the company.
Something I noticed too is these budgets. Like, do you think they're over budgeting for some of these films like the Marvels?
I think they're over budgeting everything nowadays, and that actually kind of ties back to the quantity over or the quality over quantity. It's you still need good quality over quantity, but you don't need to be spending $250 million
every fucking movie,
and then even $100 million on an episode of a show, like, or whatever it is, or 50 million. I don't know the exact. I'm just giving like a rough thing. I'm not being, but I'm just saying it's still a lot of money that they're spending per episode for a 10 episode miniseries. That it's like, why? It's like it shouldn't cost that much. Like, what is it? Does that go into the production budget? Does that go towards, like, I'm not understanding, like, what is sucking up all those?
You barely get any advertisement for most of these shows that are coming out on Disney Plus. You see like a little clip ad when you turn it on, maybe an Instagram ad or something, and that's it. You don't have this billboards and shit all out there. It's not in the parks.
So you know what I think it is, though? They were putting out amazing movies, amazing stuff, and they had that budget because they were making the money back and more.
Right.
But since they're making shit movies, shit TV shows, they were so used to putting that money out and getting it back. Now they're just putting the money out and not getting any return.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
Indy
think
was
that's what it
350.
was.
Indy was like 350 to make. Why are you spending 350 million on Indy?
No, I know. That's
What
crazy
the
to
fuck you
me.
doing?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy to me. Yeah, no, Tones is right. I mean, you guys are right. I mean, they were. I think in 2019. I think they had like $6 or $7 billion movies that year.
Yeah.
Like insane, dude. Absolutely insane. And I think they got used to that, and so these budgets got bigger and bigger and bigger, and now these movies aren't making $1 billion. Now it's not even just Disney's fault necessarily, because the industry has changed a lot since the pandemic. There's a lot of streaming focus now. Streaming didn't kill theaters, but it definitely hurt it.
It's
People aren't going like they
sorry,
used to. Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I
Bro.
was just gonna say it's just like Iron Man. Iron Man came out in 2008. Banger of a movie. It's a kick-ass movie. It spearheaded the whole entire MCU, phenomenon. And that movie's budget was between 130 to 140 million. Whereas
Couldn't tell.
you guys just said you can't tell, but yeah, you're going to take Indiana Jones, which honestly wasn't that bad of a movie. Is it
No, I
the
enjoyed
greatest? No, I actually liked it, but 350 million.
For what? Like, what are you doing that's that much different than? I mean, you got people jumping out of planes, shit exploding, and everything. The same thing happens in Indy that it happens in Captain America. Captain America was what, 200, 250? So
Yeah.
what did you do with that extra 100?
Unless it's the de-aging stuff, I don't know. But they did like the de-aging stuff for Mandalorian, and it wasn't like that,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. The budgets, I just think it's a lot of waste, I guess, that's going into these things. And I think that they got to get those budgets down. 100% agree with you guys on that. You can spend a little more on the big ones, like a little more on the Star Wars stuff. I get it. The tentpoles, maybe splurge a little bit. But man, $200 million to make Elemental? Are you crazy? I mean,
wait, now can I ask you, and I might be going into some dark territory here, but this is what the show's all about here. So from the recent strikes that came from the writers into eventually the actors and what have you, because they should be getting paid more of what they're doing, for rightfully so. Everyone should be. So that begs the question that if these production budgets are so high, if it's so high because it's not going towards the writers, it's not going towards the actors, because otherwise they wouldn't have been going out on strike. So it's like, does that go towards, like, what is that sort of in a way where the writers and the actors were kind of calling out on these execs on their bullshit because of their production budgets? It's like, why so high? We're not seeing a dime of that.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I never thought of it like that, and not just that, some of the writers aren't coming out with, I hate to say it, coming out with good quality movies or good scripts, in my opinion. And it kind of sucks because I don't want to say
I had a really good one. It was called Soth. Fuck you, Illuminations.
A little context for that is just that George wrote a script for a duck movie called South that is very, very similar to Migration. You must have been sitting at a Starbucks in an Illumination exec right over your shoulder.
Someone must have been looking right over my shoulders, man. That was
that's crazy. But
I'm sorry, Tones. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it sucks because get your money. Like if someone wants to make more money, like we all want to make more money. That's just how we work, and it just sucks that because they want more money, and the movies and TV shows coming out now aren't the best like they were before the pandemic. It's just
the thing with that, Tones, is that I agree with you. Make your money. If you're good at your job, you deserve to get paid for it. But at the same fucking time, it's your job. You signed up for it.
Yeah,
if that's what they're paying you to do it with your contract.
Do you think a lot of things, and I'm not just saying the writers, I'm not saying the actors, I'm just saying just overall in general, do you think a lot of people still now, almost 4 years in from the world changing back in 2020, do you feel people still use that as a crutch, as an excuse, when really it should just be kind of let it go?
In what sense though?
like for the production budget, so to speak. It's like, oh well, it's high because of everything of which I get it. I mean, from everything shutting down and everything, it just turned everything into a shit show. But I mean, like, when is there going to be a time where it's like that is not going to be the priority cause of why we can't get back on track?
Well, I don't think we're ever gonna know, George.
I don't
Like
think so.
these people lost, billions. People lost their jobs, and the whole world shut down. And some might not recover. Some recovered. We
Now
just don't
again, now
know.
when I say that, I'm not saying like as far as the typical living person. I want to make
No,
that
no,
very
yeah,
clear. I mean, like, as far as like, and I'm not even talking about even like family owned businesses. Like, those people went through the ringer
mhm.
and went to hell in a handbasket and back. I'm more so saying, like, as far as these top brass executives with the suit and the ties that get 40 to 50 million a year with their 10 cars in their garages and their 10
They didn't
bedroom
take
mansions.
there's no excuse for them. They didn't take hits.
That's what I'm saying. But yet they're
Yeah.
using that as an
Yes.
excuse.
100%.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I think they're yes.
Speak your mind. No. Speak
I
your
no,
mind,
no,
bro.
I can't on this one, not all the way. But there's people that I know that still did very well during that time, and there was no holding back. And there's certain companies that I know of that put their foot forward and really tried their
And
best to
that's why I
dig
was
themselves
trying to
out.
kind of mince my words a little bit, which I don't do very often because I can't fully say what I want to
Exactly,
say
yeah.
due to
But I've seen some companies out there do a really good job at helping out their employees, helping out themselves, obviously, because you want to help out yourself at all times, but helping out your employee and help your business succeed. And they did a great job at that, and they're still here. But do I think that person at the very, very top shed a tear or was hurting at all? Definitely not. And that's for
Financially.
financially, and that's for exactly because I know this person actually did care about their employees.
Yeah.
But financially, no, not at all. They still had their contract. They're still making their money. It has nothing to do with them. And going back to like a little bit, if Disney knew all this stuff was happening, obviously everyone knew because the things shut down. Why are you still making your budgets at 200 when you know they're only going to be on Disney Plus?
And I think that's what it was, because they were so used to having that money just come back
Not
tenfold.
smart. Not smart.
Exactly. I agree.
so they put all their eggs in one basket, assuming that people were just going to say, "The hell with it." We could just put out this random budget. People are going to
Yep.
go see it. We're going to make our money back, and then some. Well, really,
But how
that's not the case.
how are you going to make $200 million back off of someone with a $7 subscription?
Well, I don't know
And-
I don't know who in the hell Disney's using for as their accountant, but they're doing something really
I
wrong.
want to ask you. Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead, OG.
But just to be fair, though, a lot of those were kind of forced on streaming because of the pandy, right? Like, so,
Yeah.
like
yeah,
a movie
yeah.
like Soul was supposed to be in theaters and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
they got forced onto the streamer,
Now,
the ones
now,
that were put on there, and you had that giant budget, you really expect yourself to make all that money back, knowing you're going to be streaming. Look at Luca. The fuck? Like, I love Luca, by the way, but
such a good movie.
I love it.
come on, like that. If that was in theaters, holy shit, that would have made some money. But then you let fucking Raya go on there. Fucking hate Raya. Fight me if you guys like fucking Raya. So I always thought that.
I tried watching it twice, and both times I fell asleep. I'm sorry to everyone who loves Raya the Last Dragon.
No,
I couldn't get it.
I'm not sorry. You guys can go fucking live on an island with it.
What's crazy about that movie? I think there was a lot of cool mythology potential in that movie. It looked dope. My issue with that movie, and I have nothing against her as a person, but I don't like Aquafina like as an entertainer. I don't like her voicing the dragon. I thought her character was a very obnoxious. It killed it for me. If it wasn't for her character, I think I would have liked that movie a lot more.
Yeah.
It had a lot of potential, the mythology, and it was kind of like this Asian. It was almost like kind of like this like it was like Vietnam, but it wasn't. It was like it was kind of like this weird like mythological version of Vietnam, and it was kind of dope. And I like where they were going with it. But that dragon.
I agree with you, OG. Minus Aquafina playing Sisu. I actually think if they would have made it a little bit more, I think that would have been a really cool live action. I think like that would have been more fitting, where it would have been more understandable to an older type audience. Sort of kind of like that. I'm gonna date myself from this movie, but I love this movie because I'm a huge John Carpenter fan. I love Big Trouble in Little China,
Oh yeah, great.
and
Love it.
so I kind of thought that they can kind of do something of that. Maybe not as with the comedy, but just sort of like that kind of, as you had mentioned, OG, like that kind of like that mythical type of ancient, Asian culture type thing.
Right.
But yeah, when you kind of throw Aquafina in there, it's lost in translation.
So it's when I mean I don't want to have a fucking kid dragon that sounds like it smokes 20 packs of cigarettes a day.
I
Come
know.
on. It
It just
fucking
didn't
weird.
work.
No,
It didn't
yeah.
work.
But
you
she
know?
but she was decent in Shang-Chi. I will say that.
She was. To be fair, she was. Absolutely. That was probably the only thing I've ever liked her in, to be honest.
Yeah,
Was that
Shang-Chi was
movie?
amazing.
Never mind. Yeah.
Well, moving on to our last topic. It says here, Bob Iger says, I don't want to apologize for making sequels. We have made too many. That doesn't mean we're not going to continue making them. We only greenlight a sequel if we think the story is worth telling.
Okay, no, wait. Can I just say something really quick?
I think we're
These are
all
great
gonna,
by the
Okay,
these are
okay.
great,
First
by
of
the way.
all, okay. So first of all,
I
he's
think we're all
saying,
gonna agree with you on this one.
okay, he says he doesn't regret it, but then the next sentence he says we've made too many,
Yeah.
and then he's saying then we're not gonna green light a sequel unless the story is worth telling. Literally, he just contradicted himself
Yeah.
See, I
throughout
think
those three sentences. He denied it, then justified it, and then denied it again.
Well, and the whole Frozen 3, Frozen 4 thing is because they're not doing great right now with their animated films, right?
Yeah.
So they're looking at their slate going, okay, we need a sure thing. Frozen is the surest thing you're gonna get.
Toy Story.
And Toy Story, you know?
And honestly, to be fair, even with Zootopia, I have to actually say, even before all this shit went down with the company and all that, I was actually looking forward to a sequel for Zootopia regardless, because I had the opportunity to see the premiere of Zootopia while I was board on a Disney cruise ship. They had a late night premiere on the ship, and I actually enjoyed Zootopia. I mean, it's not my all-time favorite Disney animated film, but I actually enjoyed it.
Oh, it's not Pixar?
No.
I'm
Nope.
fucking with you.
No.
Oh yeah.
Which actually is kind of funny though, but it does fit actually in the realm of Pixar. You
They
would
all
think
do.
It was.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I remember back when the movie did the numbers that it did, they said there was going to be 2 sequels. They said there was going to be a Zootopia 2 and 3, and then there was going to be the Zootopia television show on Disney Plus.
Oh, that'd have been cool.
So the fact that we're getting a Zootopia 2, I'm cool with that because I would have been on board with that regardless.
George, do you think Disney waits too long to give sequels? Or
I
just
think
general?
Disney waits too long to have paint dry. I feel like I feel like that if strike while the iron's hot, you
Yeah.
don't want to overdo it, but you want to have a nice block time frame while people are still interested.
and still young. Because a lot of
Right,
people
because when
come
you
out
have that
movies really late.
generation that gets
Yeah.
older, they're like, okay, yeah, that's something I saw 6 years ago. It's like,
Oh, I'm talking about the other way around, like the actual actors and actresses too.
oh, well,
Like people
that's
start
true
growing up.
too.
Like look
Well,
at the Percy
look-
Jackson.
Well, exactly. No, that's just the thing. Now, I'm interested in this Percy Jackson
Oh, hell
type
yeah,
of
I'm
thing.
ready.
I
I'm
want to
so
see
ready.
it so bad. But I mean, it would have been really cool to see the actors that they got from the films, because that's what I grew up with. But even with The Incredibles, I mean, it took forever and a day just to get the
Yeah.
sequel
Oh
for
yeah,
The Incredibles.
dude, that's true. That was a
Yep.
long time.
I mean, that was like, I mean, the first one came out in 2004.
Yeah. And
And
then the next one was like 2018 or something.
2018.
Oh,
And people were
Nemo?
People were begging for that sequel, The Incredibles,
Hell yeah.
begging for it for
Yeah.
years.
Yep. Dory.
And you
took
can
forever
still
to
do
come
so
out.
much with that, you know, because you can make spin-off movies and all, because that's the kind of stuff you do. Like for a superhero thing, you could do that. You can make a spin-off movie of one of the villains or another hero. There's so much you could do and play with in terms of The Incredibles.
And that was the one thing that I loved that Brad Bird brought to the table with Pixar, is he just had a different type of vision of, because that Pixar was afraid of repeating itself, you know, so they wanted something different. So that's when John Lasseter brought in Brad Bird to kind of shake things up, and then you just have this story where it's like you would think of as a family of superheroes, they just do superhero stuff, but no, you have this modern day family that's just trying to live their lives while being supers. I think that's just genius. And if you kind of put that platform in a television series,
That's what I'm gonna ask next. Do you believe in so? For instance, they came out with like I'm going a little old school, Hercules TV show,
Used to
Lilo and
watch it.
Stitch.
Used to watch
Stitch
it.
had a shitload of them, but now you're getting to like the Big Hero 6, and then there's Baymax, and then there's like 4 different spin-offs of that fucking show. The other one, Tangled, it's like 4 different fucking Tangles, but they're not movies. So what are we doing here? Once again, now diluting your one main character. You come out with Tangled 2. They're gonna do good because obviously it's Tangled. But what the fuck are you gonna do with all these?
Are they
other
are they doing a Tangle too?
Probably in 10 years.
Oh, you're saying like in
Yeah, just like Big Hero 6 too. Why do we have to have these Baymax?
Oh geez,
Baymax is
that would
huge.
make what Mandy Moore 55?
47 and a half. I don't know how old she is.
Well, it's kind of hard now. They kind of shot themselves in the foot with Tangled a little bit because she ends that movie without her long hair.
Yeah.
So now what do you do?
You give her some magic again. Come on, it's fucking Disney.
It comes back. Yeah,
She'll
sure.
fall in like a fucking like. She'll never mind. It'll just happen.
It'll happen. Magic.
Yeah.
Well,
The God,
go ahead, OG.
not really
they could even do like a crossover, right? Like you can have like Tangled, and then the Wish movie, right? You can have Tangled wishing for her hair back.
What if Wish was the setup for everybody to get what they wanted? Like all princesses just get everything they wanted without actually having to go through all these heartaches.
That'd be cool.
Especially with the way Disney's going now, you don't want to make it hard for these princesses to get what they want.
Yeah, exactly. You got to be inclusive. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't need a prince. Done.
Right. That's hella funny. But yeah, the quote when he says we only greenlight a sequel if we think the story's worth telling. I mean, most stories are worth telling. It's just how good do you think the story is, and I think that's where the confusion has been with.
It seems
well,
like
that's what I would. Well, that's
like
what
one
I
person
would
in
love
the
to
room.
ask Bob Iger. You're saying, okay, greenlighting a sequel. You're only going to greenlight a sequel if the story is worth telling. Okay, then tell me where the fuck Toy Story 4 came in at. Because as far as I know, Toy Story 3 like ended it. Like it was perfect. Me personally, if they were going to make a Toy Story 4, it should have been what they are considering for Toy Story 5. It's like that full circle where Andy is a grown-up, has a family, has a kid. Bonnie then gives back the toys to Andy for his child to have the same toys that he grew up with. That would have been a perfect 4 based off of how the ending of 3 was if they wanted to do that. 4 literally made no sense. So Andy, in number 3, Andy gave his toys to Bonnie that she had to have Woody. He couldn't take him off to college with him. So that was just basically in vain because then Bonnie then shit on Woody for a fucking plastic spork with those what do you call those
Those wire
and popsicle sticks for feet and all that shit. It's like, okay, so then that's fine. So then then Woody abandons everybody, leaves them, stays with Bo Peep at the carnival because I mean, for all those years, he wants to get a little and so I mean, can I blame him? I mean, I guess that's why they don't call him Woody for nothing. But then so it's like I don't get it. Like the storyline for Toy Story 4 just didn't make any sense for me.
And Toy Story 5 is going to be they contacted Tim Allen and everyone come back. So
that was smart of them. They really look. I love Chris Evans. I think he's fantastic. You know what I'm saying? But when they got him to play, when they got him to voice Lightyear, it was just weird. The voice was different than the toy or whatever, and then it just rubbed people the wrong way. Bringing Tim Allen back into the fold, Tom Hanks, smart move, real smart move.
Question for you guys, kind of going back now, with like the TV series. You had Goosebumps. They put that out. It's doing really well. It's awesome. If you haven't checked it out, go check out Goosebumps. It's really good. But they had Sony help with that. How's this Sony relationship working with Disney, because I've been seeing it kind of a lot now. I feel like they're kind of collaborating, doing a lot more stuff together.
Well, if it,
Oh, go ahead,
oh no,
George.
go ahead, OG. No, really quick before you go, I was just gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong, OG. Isn't right now Sony's relationship with Disney sort of kind of like how it was with Fox and Disney before it became an actual merger?
Yeah, well, I know that Disney and Sony has some issues with Spider-Man a few years back. I think it was like in 2018 or 2017, if I'm not mistaken. There was like some pretty intense negotiations for that. And I remember Tom Holland was all upset over it because he just got the role and he's like, "Oh no, now I'm gonna get kicked. Now I can't be involved with the MCU and that whole thing." But lately, it seems like they have a pretty good relationship. I mean, I haven't heard any drama since then. So it seems like it's kind of warmed up between the two.
Yeah.
Um,
George,
I,
oh, go ahead.
and the Spider-Verse, I mean, that was, I mean, that's a Sony Disney collabo, basically. You know,
Yeah.
it's Disney's property, and I didn't hear any drama with that. So yeah,
And they did get a lot of the Fox stuff. Well, obviously they got all the Fox stuff with a lot of the Sony made Fox movies. Do you think you'll ever see Sony just like, here we go, this is what we're doing, we are going to merge with you, Disney, because we have no streaming platform, we'll release all of our stuff to you on the streaming platform?
That could eventually become, maybe that's why Disney is kind of keeping it cordial with Sony.
Yeah.
So eventually they can kind of line up their ducks in a row to
'Cause
kind
they-
of
Good.
have it ready just in case, if that would be
Just
the
in
case.
case. Yeah.
Yeah, because they still have like what Morbius and all that. That's still showing on Disney, correct? Or is that only on like Netflix?
I don't know if Morbius
Oh.
is now.
No, I believe I
now
saw
the
it
Spider-Man is it on there? I know the Spider-Man films are.
Spider-Verse 2 was on there, but I don't think the first one is on. Like the
But then
cartoon
there's
version.
also, because I think with certain licensing agreements per streaming service, that sometimes you have to wait for that to expire in
Mhm.
order
Oh,
for
okay.
it to be picked up by the actual ownership.
Yeah, and there I can't remember off the top of my head, but you're right because I saw a movie that was on Netflix previously. Then
Morbius is on Netflix. I'm looking at it
it's
right now.
okay. So once that expires, then you're saying it's going to go
Correct.
over Disney.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I wouldn't mind seeing more of that. I wouldn't mind seeing Disney get their hands a little bit more on these characters too, like on the Morbius character. And I still feel like that was a weird one for them, especially because they didn't involve the rest of the MCU. Because Morbius is a big player in a lot of these comic books that you kind of need to set up other people, like Blade, for instance. Morbius and Blade, like perfect setup. Morbius
I want to see
and,
the Sinister,
and Spider.
the Sinister Six.
Yeah, that'd be awesome too.
Hey,
so
was
there's a
it
lot.
you
They
who
can do.
was it you who brought up Gambit the other day? Was that you?
Me or George?
Yeah. No, you, Candid.
Dude, I say a lot of stupid shit. Come on, man.
All I know is I would love to see a fucking Gambit movie.
Oh, just fuck yeah, just like a Gambit origin story.
Yes.
well, they were going to do that with what was his name, Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
Interesting.
A few years ago, he was rumored to play Gambit, and then I don't know where that was even before the pandy though.
Yeah.
And a lot changed since then. But yeah,
I
that
can
was
see him
that was
being a
gonna
good.
do.
I can see him being a good Gambit. That's a
Oh,
good
yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I want to end with this. A question for all of you guys. In my opinion, after the pandy, we got a kind of a hit when it came to the MCU of quality and good movies. A couple have came out since, but I think, in my opinion, the streaming, Disney Plus, didn't really help out the MCU in a way. Do you guys feel that same way, or am I reading too much into it?
No, you're
you're
right,
right.
Tones. It definitely it hurt the MCU a great deal because, like I said earlier, I think that it affected Feige's ability to kind of manage this stuff more hands-on like he was before. He had too many properties. Also, you got to understand if you have the average person who didn't get time to watch the last two Marvel shows, and you have a cinematic universe, they're not going to go see the new Marvel movie in theaters because, hey, I got to watch these two shows first and catch up.
Yeah.
So they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that. So I'm sorry, Ken, for interrupting you.
Well, I was going to say, kind of like you're right, 100%. Where I kind of see things started going weird was with Scarlett Johansson and the Black Widow movie. Like
Yeah.
once that kind of hit the scene and everyone's all like in uproar because they're not paying people and it was supposed to be in the movie theaters, but they snuck it onto the thing. They had to pay her a shitload of money. I just think I think everything was handled in the wrong way. But no one also knew this. Well, some people didn't know this was going to happen. And I don't know where I'm going with this, but all I know is that She ended up making a shitload of money in the box office anyway. She's just a fucking crybaby. Scarlett Johansson, if you ever watch this, fuck you. You're not your Black Widow ain't shit. Fucking what?
Don't-
Not even a real
Scarlett
superhero.
Well,
Johansson, I apologize on the behalf of Bad Thought
No.
Studios.
Fuck
Well,
Scarlett Johansson.
You are beautiful.
Fuck Jimmy Fallon. Fuck Steve Young. And fuck
He
what's
said
the other
fuck Steve
motherfuckers? Johnson. The fuck's his first name? Randy Johnson. Fuck you.
well, and this is the thing too, right? I mean, you got to pay your talent. I get that. You got to pay your talent, absolutely. But that whole thing with ScarJo was like, I was like, okay, are we really feeling sorry for this bajillionaire? Like, really?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry,
Absolutely.
like-
Lying about it though. That's the difference. Like The Rock started crying about his bullshit, but she was like everywhere, just being a little fucking asshole.
Yeah, it was just like, I'm sorry. Okay, fine. You know what? You want to talk about the dude, that the camera guy or the grip guy, or this person doing the sets and the contract work and all that. Fine. Those are the people like, okay, fine. You know what? You got to pay these guys. They live check to check or whatever. I get that. ScarJo? Are you kidding me?
I appreciate you guys coming on. A lot of this stuff that I personally, especially when it comes to Bob Iger and all the the details when it comes to him, you guys are the perfect people to bring on here. So I want to thank you guys for coming on and giving me the ins and outs of how that usually goes. Because like I said, I wouldn't have been able to do without you guys. But I'll start with you, Candid. If you could tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, so find me the Candid Camper on X, the Candid Camper on YouTube, the Candid Camper with an extra R at the end on IG, and for reals though, fuck Steve Young and Randy Johnson and Jimmy Fallon and Scarlett Johansson.
Anybody else?
I know.
No,
right?
I'm actually good. No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, George. If you could let the remind the people where they can find you, please.
Absolutely. You can find me on social media on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also find me on Instagram under the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me on OrangeGrove55's and my little segment called Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
There you go.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir. And OG, thank you again, man. If you could tell the people where they can find you as well.
Absolutely. You can find me on YouTube with this guy right here and these guys. These guys are on the channel all the time too. It's OrangeGrove55. We talk a lot of this MCU stuff. We talk a lot of this Bob Iger stuff.
God, I sound like a Bob Iger dick rider.
We didn't talk a lot about Bob. we talk Star Wars, theme parks, all that good stuff. Check us out. Instagram, OrangeGrove55, and on X on Twitter, at OrangeGrove55.
But if you guys want to follow me at Tones_TV on all platforms, please. Guys, follow these guys on their platforms. These guys are great at what they do. They're so smart, and it's fun to just converse with these guys. And you guys will have a great time with their content as well. Also, follow me and Candid's podcast at Bad Thoughts Podcast. We talk literally about anything. We've had sriracha talk on places that shouldn't even be. Yeah, feet. These all refer down to this guy down here. So, yeah, guys, go listen to it. But I hope you guys have a great night. I'll catch y'all later. Love y'all.